At midnight, I was dragged out of our wooden house in the suburbs of Portland barefoot, clutching a tattered backpack because my brother swore I stole Mom's pearl necklace. I'm Kayla Thornton, 17, and that night, my family turned against me over a lie. My brother's fake tears fooled everyone. She took it. He sobbed, pointing at me. Dad stormed into my room holding the necklace they found in my desk drawer. I shouted, I didn't do it, but Dad's face twisted with rage. You're a disgrace, he yelled, shoving me out the door. Mom just stood there silent as the lock clicked shut. I banged on the door screaming, this isn't fair, but no one answered. My brother's smug glance through the window said it all, he'd planned this. I was just a kid working at a coffee shop saving for college thinking I had a family who trusted me. But that lie cost me everything. Dad's words, Mom's silence, and my brother's betrayal burned into me. I wasn't going to let this define me, though. Weeks later, something happened that flipped everything. Something my brother never expected. Want to know how I fought back? Keep watching. Ever been betrayed by family? Share your story in the comments and hit subscribe to see how I exposed my brother's lies. That night, I was sitting in my room writing in my journal on an old wooden desk when the door burst open. My brother stormed in, tears streaming down his face, pointing at me like I was a thief caught in the act. She stole Mom's pearl necklace. He cried, his voice trembling with fake sorrow. I dropped my pen, my heart pounding. What are you talking about, Noah? I snapped, standing up. I'd never touched Mom's jewelry, especially not her precious pearl necklace, the one she got from her grandmother. Dad barged in before I could say more, his face red with rage. Kayla, what's this about? He demanded, his voice sharp and accusing. Mom trailed behind, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes wide with worry. I didn't do anything, I said, my voice shaking. My brother sobbed louder, clinging to Mom's arm. I saw her sneaking in your room, he wailed, playing the perfect victim. I glared at him. You're lying, Noah. Tell them the truth. But he just shook his head, tears flowing, and I caught a flicker of a smirk on his lips, quick but undeniable. Dad didn't wait for explanations. He stormed to my desk, yanking open the drawer where I kept my notebooks and coffee shop pay stubs. He dug through, tossing my things aside, then froze. He held up the pearl necklace, its beads catching the light. Care to explain this, Kayla? He growled, thrusting it toward me. My stomach sank. I didn't put it there. I shouted, my eyes darting to Noah. He's setting me up. But Noah buried his face in Mom's shoulder, his sobs drowning me out. You're a failure? Kayla, Dad spat his words, cutting deeper than a knife. Stealing from your own family, jealous of your brother. I shook my head, desperate. Dad, I swear I didn't do this. You know me. But he waved me off, his hand slicing through the air. No more lies. Mom finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. Kayla, why would you do this? Her disappointment stung worse than Dad's anger. I turned to her, pleading. Mom, I didn't. Noah's making it up. But she looked down, unable to meet my eyes. My brother's fake crying filled the room, and I realized they'd already chosen to believe him. Dad grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. You're out of this house, he said coldly. No daughter of mine steals from us. I yanked free, my chest heaving. This isn't right. You're not even listening. But he was already pulling me toward the front door. I grabbed my backpack, my hands trembling, no time for shoes or a jacket, just the thin shirt I had on. Noah watched from the hallway, that smug glint in his eyes again. He'd won, and he knew it. On the porch, I fell to my knees, tears streaming down my face. Dad, please, I sobbed, clutching my backpack. I didn't take it. I'm your daughter, not a thief. My voice broke as I looked at Mom, standing frozen in the doorway. Mom, you have to believe me, I'd never hurt you. But Dad's face was stone. Get out, he said, his voice final. I reached for Mom's hand, begging. Please don't do this. I'm innocent. She turned away, tears in her eyes, and the door slammed shut. The lock clicked, leaving me alone in the dark, my sobs echoing on the empty porch. I sat there, my bare feet freezing against the wood, my heart shattered. My own family had turned their backs on me, all because of Noah's lie. The betrayal burned, but a fire sparked inside me. I wasn't going to let this break me. I'd prove the truth, no matter what it took. The Portland night wind was freezing, and I curled up in a park near the forest, clutching my backpack to my chest. My bare feet ached from the cold, and my thin shirt did nothing to stop the shivers. I'd been kicked out with nothing but a few dollars from my coffee shop job, and now those were gone, spent on a stale sandwich from a gas station. For the first time in my 17 years, I was truly alone, with no home, no family, and no idea what to do next. The first night, I found a bench in the park hidden behind some bushes. I tried to sleep, but every rustle made my heart race. By morning, my stomach growled and my head throbbed from exhaustion. I wandered to a public restroom near the community center, splashing cold water on my face to stay awake. The mirror showed a stranger, pale with dark circles under my eyes. I couldn't go back to school, not yet. I had nowhere to go, so I kept moving my backpack, my only companion. By the third day, my money was gone. I stood behind a diner, staring at a dumpster overflowing with food scraps. My hands shook as I reached in, pulling out a half-eaten burger wrapped in greasy paper. I gagged at the thought, but forced myself to eat. It was that or starve. As I sat on the curb, a worker from the diner, a guy in his 20s with a faded apron, came out to toss a trash bag. He saw me, hesitated, then walked over. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but cautious. I looked down, ashamed. "I'm fine," I mumbled, clutching the burger. He didn't buy it. "Wait here," he said, disappearing inside. A minute later, he came back with a paper bag. "Some leftover bread and a sandwich," he said, handing it to me. "It's clean, don't worry." I stared at the bag, my throat tight. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice barely audible. He shrugged. "Looked like you needed it." His small act of kindness hit me hard like a spark in the dark. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of hope. I found a warehouse near the edge of town, its broken window just big enough for me to slip through. Inside, it was dusty and cold, but it was shelter. I curled up on a pile of old sacks, using my backpack as a pillow, and tried to plan my next move. I couldn't stay like this forever. I needed help, but who could I trust? My family had turned their backs on me, and I had no one else. Then I remembered Aunt Patricia, Mom's older sister, who always seemed to see through people. The next day, I found a payphone outside a gas station. My hands trembled as I dialed her number, praying she'd answer. "Kayla," Aunt Patricia's voice came through, warm but worried. "Where are you?" I heard what happened. I choked back tears, telling her everything: my brother's lie, the necklace, how Dad threw me out. "I didn't do it, Aunt Patricia," I said, my voice shaking. "I swear." She didn't hesitate. "I believe you, sweetheart," she said firmly. "Stay strong. I'm going to dig into this and find out what's going on. Don't give up, okay?" Her words were like a lifeline. I hung up my chest lighter, but the weight of my situation didn't vanish. I was still homeless, still hungry, still alone. But Aunt Patricia's voice echoed in my head, urging me to keep going. I sat in the warehouse that night, clutching the diner worker's sandwich, and made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to let my brother's lie destroy me. I'd survive this, and I'd prove I was innocent, no matter how long it took. For the first time since that awful night, I felt a spark of strength inside me. I wasn't broken yet. A week later, I walked into school, the stares of my classmates cutting into my pride like knives. I'd been sleeping in a warehouse, surviving on scraps, but I thought school might be a refuge. I was wrong. My brother had spread the lie that I stole Mom's pearl necklace, and the rumor had infected everyone. Whispers followed me down the hallway, eyes narrowing as I passed. Kids who used to wave at me in the cafeteria now turned away, their murmurs sharp and accusing. In the hallway, a girl from my history class blocked my path. Thief. She spat loud enough for everyone to hear. Her friends snickered, clutching their backpacks like I might steal those too. My face burned. I didn't take anything, I said, my voice low but firm. She rolled her eyes. Sure, Kayla. That's why your own parents kicked you out. The words hit like a punch. I wanted to scream that my brother had set me up, but the crowd was already dispersing, their judgmental glances lingering. I felt like I was shrinking, my reputation crumbling with every step. I tried talking to my English teacher, Miss Carter, during lunch. She'd always been kind, so I thought she might listen. Ms. Carter. I need to talk about what's happening, I said, standing by her desk. I explained the rumor, how my brother had lied, how I was living on the streets now. Her face softened at first, but then she sighed. Kayla, these sound like family issues. You might be exaggerating, she said, her tone gentle but dismissive. I stared at her, stunned. I'm not making this up, I insisted. I'm homeless because of a lie, but she just nodded, suggesting I talk to the counselor. I left her room, my hope fading. Even the adults I trusted wouldn't believe me. By the end of the day, I couldn't take it anymore. I skipped my last class and sat on the school steps, my head in my hands. The weight of being labeled a thief was crushing me. I'd lost my home, my family, and now my place in the world. Kids passing by whispered, some pointing, others laughing. I wanted to disappear. Then I heard a familiar voice. Kayla. I looked up to see Aunt Patricia, Mom's older sister, standing there with her worn denim jacket and a worried frown. I stood, my voice cracking. Aunt Patricia, how did you find me? She pulled me into a hug, her arms strong and warm. I've been calling around, checking places you might be, she said. I'm so sorry you're going through this. We sat on the steps and I poured out everything, the rumors, the girl in the hallway, Ms. Carter's dismissal. Patricia listened, her eyes narrowing when I mentioned my brother. That boy's up to something, she said, her voice sharp. I never trusted his crocodile tears. I wiped my eyes, feeling a spark of relief. No one believes me, Aunt Patricia, I said. Everyone thinks I'm a thief. She squeezed my hand. I believe you, Kayla. And we're going to prove it. You need to stay strong and keep your eyes open for anything that can expose his lie. Her words were firm, like a promise. What kind of proof? I asked, my voice trembling. She thought for a moment. Anything, something he says, something he does. People like him slip up eventually. Patricia's confidence gave me a lifeline. She handed me a few dollars for food and promised to check on me again soon. You're not alone, Kayla, she said before leaving. We'll get through this together. I watched her walk away, her words echoing in my mind. For the first time in a week, I felt like I could breathe. My brother's lie had turned my world against me, but I wasn't going to let it win. With Aunt Patricia on my side, I had a chance to fight back. I just needed to find a way to prove the truth. 2 weeks later, I was washing my face in a public restroom near the forest when Chelsea Grant ran in, her eyes blazing with excitement. Kayla, you won't believe this, she said, nearly out of breath. My heart skipped a beat. Chelsea, my best friend since middle school, had been one of the few who didn't turn away when the rumors about me stealing Mom's pearl necklace spread. I dried my hands on my worn shirt, wary but curious. What's going on? I asked. She pulled me outside, her voice low but urgent. I was at a party last night and Noah was there bragging to his friends, she said. He said he planted the necklace in your room to get you kicked out. He laughed about it, Kayla, like it was some big joke. My blood ran cold. I'd known Noah set me up, but hearing he'd boasted about it made my anger flare. He said that out loud, I asked, my voice shaking. Chelsea nodded, her eyes wide. He thought he was untouchable, saying you were out of the picture for good. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. He thinks he's won? I muttered. Then Chelsea reached into her pocket and pulled out a small cassette tape. I recorded it, she said, a triumphant grin spreading across her face. I borrowed my brother's Walkman and hit record when Noah started talking. It's all here, his voice, his exact words. I stared at the tape, my heart pounding. This was it, the proof I needed to expose my brother's lie. "Are you sure it's clear?" I asked, barely daring to hope. Chelsea nodded. "Crystal clear. He says your name, the necklace, everything. I checked it this morning." I took the tape, my hands trembling. For 2 weeks I'd been shunned, called a thief, and left to survive on the streets. Now I had something real, something that could turn everything around. "Chelsea, you're amazing," I said, pulling her into a quick hug. She laughed. "I wasn't going to let him get away with this. You're my best friend." We needed someone to help us figure out what to do next, so we headed to Aunt Patricia's house. She'd believed me from the start, and I trusted her to know how to use this tape. We found her in her small living room, surrounded by stacks of old books and a rotary phone. "Kayla, Chelsea." "What's this about?" Aunt Patricia asked, standing up as we burst in. I handed her the cassette, my voice steady despite my nerves. "Aunt Patricia, Chelsea recorded Noah admitting he framed me. He said he planted the necklace to get me thrown out." Patricia's eyes narrowed as she took the tape. "That boy," she muttered, shaking her head. I knew he was up to no good. She grabbed her old cassette player from a shelf and popped the tape in. Noah's voice filled the room, smug and clear. "Kayla's gone for good. I put that necklace in her drawer, and Mom and Dad bought it. She's out, and I'm finally free of her." My stomach twisted hearing his words. Chelsea squeezed my hand, and Patricia's jaw tightened. "This is gold," she said, stopping the tape. "He's handed us everything we need." We sat around her coffee table, the tape player between us. Patricia leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. "This proves you're innocent, Kayla, but we need to be smart. If we show this to your parents now, they might not listen, especially your dad. He's too stubborn." I nodded, remembering how he'd called me a failure. "So what do we do?" I asked. Patricia tapped the table. "We make sure this tape gets to the right people at the right time. Your mom might listen, but we need to catch her when she's ready to hear it." Chelsea chimed in. "Maybe we can play it somewhere public, like at school, so everyone knows." Patricia shook her head. "Too risky. Noah could twist it. Say it's fake." "No, we take this to your family directly, Kayla. You need to face them. Show them who Noah really is." My heart raced at the thought of confronting Dad and Mom again, but Patricia's steady gaze gave me courage. "You're stronger than you know," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "This tape is your weapon. Use it." I clutched the cassette, its weight heavy in my hand. Noah thought he'd erased me from the family, but he'd made a mistake. He'd bragged too loud, and now I had the truth on my side. With Chelsea and Patricia backing me up, I was ready to fight back. Under the Portland rain, I stood outside our wooden house, clutching the cassette tape with the recording. My heart pounded as I knocked on the door, the sound echoing like a drum in my chest. I hadn't been home since Dad threw me out, calling me a failure for a crime I didn't commit. Now, with Noah's confession on this tape, I was ready to face them. Stephen Thornton, Ellen Thornton, and my brother Noah. The door creaked open, and Mom's face appeared, pale and surprised. "Kayla," she whispered, her voice trembling. I stepped inside, dripping wet. My voice steady despite the fear. "Mom, I need to talk to you, Dad and Noah. Now." She hesitated, then nodded, calling for Dad. Stephen Thornton stormed into the living room, his eyes narrowing when he saw me. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. Noah slunk in behind him, his usual smirk gone, replaced by a wary glance. I took a deep breath, holding up the cassette. "I'm here to tell the truth," I said. Noah framed me. He planted Mom's necklace in my room. Dad cut me off, his voice sharp. "You're a liar, Kayla. We've heard enough of your excuses." His words stung, but I'd expected them. I turned to Mom, her eyes flickering with doubt. "Please, Mom, just listen," I said, my voice softer. "I have proof." Noah shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting to the tape. "She's making it up," he said quickly, his voice too loud. "She's just jealous, like always." But Mom's frown deepened, and she stayed silent, watching me. I pulled out a small cassette player I'd borrowed from Chelsea and pressed play. Noah's voice filled the room, smug and unmistakable. Kayla's gone for good. I put that necklace in her drawer and Mom and Dad bought it. She's out and I'm finally free of her. The words hung in the air, heavy and damning. Mom gasped, her hand covering her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Dad's face froze, his anger faltering for the first time. Noah's mouth opened, then closed, his face paling. "That's not me," he blurted, his voice cracking. "She faked it." I glared at him, my voice steady. "You know it's real, Noah. You said those words at that party, bragging to your friends." Mom turned to him, her voice trembling. "Noah, is this true?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. He stammered, his hands shaking. It's not what it sounds like, Mom. I was just joking." But his excuses sounded hollow, and Mom's expression shifted from shock to suspicion. She looked at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "Kayla." "I didn't know," she whispered. Dad's face was still hard, but he didn't interrupt. I took a step forward, my voice rising. "You believed him without even listening to me," I said, looking at Dad. "You threw me out, called me a failure, and let him destroy my life. I was homeless because of his lie." My voice broke, but I didn't stop. "I won't forgive you for this, not until you admit you were wrong and tell everyone the truth." Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back, my anger too raw. "You need to fix this," I said. "Tell the school, tell your friends, tell everyone who thinks I'm a thief." Noah's face twisted, his voice desperate. "You can't believe her over me," he shouted, but Mom's gaze stayed on me, her doubt in him growing. Dad finally spoke, his voice quieter now. "We need to talk about this, Kayla," he said, but I shook my head. "No more talking," I said. "You either make this right or I'm done with this family." I turned and walked out, the rain soaking me again, the cassette still in my hand. I'd faced them, and I'd made them hear the truth. Whatever came next, I wasn't backing down. Ellen Thornton held the computer, her hands shaking, staring at Noah as if she didn't recognize him. The cassette's truth had shattered her trust in her son, and now, with Aunt Patricia's urging, she sat at the family's old desktop, typing a public apology on Portland's community forum. I stood in Patricia's living room, watching the screen over her shoulder as Mom's words took shape. "My daughter Kayla was wrongly accused," she wrote. "Noah framed her for stealing my necklace, and we, her parents, failed her by believing him. We're sorry." Her fingers hesitated before hitting post, but Patricia's steady voice pushed her forward. "Do it, Ellen. It's the right thing." The post went live, and within hours it spread like wildfire. Neighbors shared it, friends commented, and the truth rippled through our small town. By the next morning, Noah's name was everywhere, not as the golden boy, but as the liar who'd betrayed his sister. At school, his friends turned their backs, whispering as he passed. I heard from Chelsea that kids in his class avoided him, their laughter replaced by cold silence. The school principal called a meeting to discuss disciplinary measures, and Noah's perfect reputation crumbled overnight. Stephen Thornton. My dad tried to salvage his image. He called the post a family matter to anyone who'd listen, but the neighbors weren't buying it. At the local grocery store, Mrs. Larson, who'd known us for years, cornered him near the produce aisle. "How could you throw out your own daughter?" she demanded, loud enough for others to hear. Dad's face reddened, his usual confidence faltering. "We made a mistake," he mumbled, but the words sounded weak. Another neighbor, Mr. Patel, shook his head at a community barbecue, muttering about parents who choose favorites. Dad's standing in Portland, once solid, was now a topic of gossip. I stayed with Aunt Patricia, sleeping on her couch far from the house I'd once called home. Chelsea visited, showing me screenshots of the forum post now with hundreds of comments. "People are on your side, Kayla," she said, her voice warm with pride. I read through them, strangers calling me brave, others demanding justice for me. For the first time in weeks, I felt a weight lift from my chest. The truth was out, and Noah's lie couldn't hurt me anymore. But the relief came with a bitter edge. My parents had failed me and their apology, though public couldn't erase the nights I'd spent hungry and alone. Patricia sat me down one evening, her eyes soft but serious. "Kayla, your mom's trying to make this right," she said, handing me a cup of tea. "But you don't have to go back if you're not ready." I nodded, staring into the steaming mug. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready, Aunt Patricia," I admitted. "They believed Noah without question. They threw me out like I was nothing." My voice cracked, but I didn't cry. I'd cried enough. Patricia squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than they ever gave you credit for," she said. "You decide what's next." I thought about Mom's post, her words raw and honest. She'd admitted their bias, how they'd favored Noah's charm over my truth. But it wasn't enough to pull me back to that house, to the memories of Dad's anger and Noah's smirk. I'd survived on my own with Chelsea's loyalty and Patricia's support. Going back felt like stepping into a trap, like I'd lose the strength I'd built. I looked at Patricia, my voice firm. "I'm not going back," I said. "Not now, maybe not ever. I need to build my own life." Chelsea came by the next day, her excitement contagious. "The school's talking about suspending Noah," she said, scrolling through her phone. "And people keep messaging you, Kayla. They want to help." I smiled, a small but real one. The community's support felt like a shield protecting me from the pain of my family's betrayal. I didn't need Dad's approval or Mom's tears anymore. I had people who believed in me, and that was enough. The truth had set me free, not to return, but to move forward on my own terms. I stood at the Portland bus station, my backpack slung over my shoulder, ready to leave and start over. The rain had stopped, leaving a damp chill in the air, but I felt lighter than I had in months. Aunt Patricia stood beside me, her hand resting on my arm. "You're going to be okay, Kayla," she said, her voice warm with conviction. I nodded, clutching the bus ticket to a small apartment she'd helped me find across town. I wasn't going back to my parents' house, not after everything. Patricia had been my anchor. She'd spent weeks helping me rebuild, connecting me with a local diner owner who needed a part-time waitress. The job wasn't glamorous, but it was mine, a step toward independence. She'd also found me a room to rent, a tiny space above a bookstore, affordable on my new wages. "You've got a fighter's spirit," she told me one evening as we sorted through job listings. "Don't let anyone take that from you." Her words stuck with me, a reminder that I could shape my own future. Meanwhile, Noah faced the consequences of his actions. Chelsea called me one afternoon, her voice buzzing with news. The school suspended him for a month, she said. His friends ditched him completely. Noah's charm, once his greatest weapon, had crumbled. Classmates who'd laughed at his jokes now ignored him, their trust shattered by his recorded confession. The principal had cited dishonesty and harm to appear in the disciplinary report, and whispers followed Noah everywhere. He'd lost the spotlight he'd fought so hard to keep. Ellen Thornton. My mom tried to reach out. She left voicemails at Patricia's house, her voice thick with regret. "Kayla, please let's talk." She'd say, each message more desperate. "Stephen Thornton." My dad sent a letter, his handwriting stiff and formal, apologizing for misjudging the situation. But their words felt hollow. They'd chosen Noah's lies over me, thrown me out without a second thought. The pain of those nights, cold alone, branded a thief, was etched too deep to erase. I didn't return their calls or write back. Some wounds don't heal with a few sorry words. Chelsea came to visit me at Patricia's one last time before I moved. She sat cross-legged on the couch, her phone buzzing with messages from friends. "Your mom's post is still getting comments," she said, scrolling through the forum. "People keep saying you're an inspiration." I smiled, faintly grateful for the support, but uneasy with the attention. "I just want to move on," I told her. She nodded, understanding. "You will, Kayla. You're tougher than all of them." Her faith in me felt like a lifeline, a reminder of the people who'd stood by me when my family didn't. As I waited for the bus, I thought about what I'd learned through this ordeal. My parents' favoritism had torn our family apart, their blind trust in Noah destroying the bond we'd once had. It taught me that bias, even from those closest to you, can shatter trust in ways that apologies can't always fix. but I'd also learned the power of truth and persistence. Without Chelsea's recording, Patricia's support, and my own refusal to give up, I'd still be a pariah, labeled a thief. Standing up for myself even when it hurt had brought me here to a new beginning. I looked at Patricia, her denim jacket worn but familiar. "Thank you, Aunt Patricia," I said, my voice steady. "For everything." She pulled me into a hug, her grip strong. "You don't need to thank me," she said. "You did the hard part." The bus pulled up, its engine rumbling. I climbed aboard, my backpack heavy but my heart lighter. As Portland faded behind me, I knew I wasn't just leaving a place, I was leaving behind a past that no longer defined me. The truth had given me freedom, and my persistence had carved a path forward. I was ready to build a life on my own terms, stronger for it all.